Hey guys, this is your girl Kissing Static. Thank you for watching my channel. I am so happy that you guys made it today. I'm so happy you guys made it another day on God's beautiful green earth. So today I wanted to talk about Alberta teen farmer and how basically the police did to him what they do to many people of color, many black people, anybody that is not associated with the police force itself. Just, you know, I just want you guys to like look at this video, be as objective as you possibly can, but understand the context in which it's being all said. I wanted to show you guys this video particularly, not just because of the police brutality that went on in this video, because honestly this is a trope that's been going on for as long as, you know, America has existed, even pre-America, let's be real, of brutality of gangs and all that jazz. But I want you to hear how the speaker, the announcer, the presenter, how he pretty much vilifies Black Lives Matter in this. And even though, let me be very clear, I'm not supportive of the overall movement of Black Lives Matter, but I am a black person, so I do support other black people. So this bothers me, because when people hear Black Lives Matter, they think of black people. They think of black people trying to figure out something for themselves in the age of police brutality. So I want you guys to hear the context in which he says it in relation to this white boy being harassed by police, because in my opinion there was no need for it. there was no reason that this random presenter, this random speaker, this guy to ever speak on Black Lives Matter in the first place. But I want you guys to go ahead and watch the rest of the video.
The way I see sheriffs, like the Alberta Police Force, I definitely see that in a different way now. Like, it scares me now whenever I see a sheriff. I don't have much respect for them now because of what they've done to me.
You may recall the story of Jeremiah Lusing. He's a young farm boy in rural Alberta who was pulled out of his tractor by his neck, pushed onto the pavement, and given scars that he has to this day. He was also punched in the face by Alberta sheriffs in an act of police brutality that is rarely seen in Alberta. Problem is, regular social justice warriors, folks who are opposed to police brutality, they weren't really interested in this case because Jeremiah was a white farm boy from rural Alberta. He was a Catholic. He doesn't fit the bill that Black Lives Matter really is interested in today, but police brutality of any kind is a problem. And this, what happened to Jeremiah, was particularly egregious. The news today, well, the government of Alberta, their prosecutors, have dropped all charges against Jeremiah and the charges that were ascribed to his brother. I spoke with them today at their farm. They took a few minutes out of their harvest to speak with me about what went on and why they think the charges were dropped.
Well, I'm sure they saw the situation I was in and everything that happened to me, and they, you know, all the support I'm getting, like from Rebel and everyone else, and that's mostly one of the reasons why they probably thought about dropping it. Because they don't need all this trouble, especially when the court date comes.
These are really great folks out here. They're doing great work, feeding the country, and they're not at all the type of people that Alberta sheriffs or law enforcement should be prosecuting and giving criminal charges to. And it's really confusing why Minister Doug Schweitzer, who was then the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General for Alberta, didn't immediately throw out these charges. It took Minister Casey Madu, the individual who replaced Minister Doug Schweitzer as Minister of Justice and Attorney General, to have these charges completely thrown out. I was grateful that I was able to speak with Jeremiah here today. The first time I came out to their farm to do the initial story on this, he was still too traumatized by what happened to speak on camera. He was also worried with pending criminal charges that he might incriminate himself. Since those charges have been dropped, he was happy to speak with me, and I was really glad we were able to tell his story fully, to let Albertans and Canadians know exactly what the consequences are for having a police force that is so out of touch with rural Alberta. The RCMP ships in officers from Montreal to police rural southern Alberta, central Alberta, northern Alberta, across the country. They're shuffling a deck of officers. Now, the problem with Alberta sheriffs is they're not equipped at all to be dealing with rural Alberta either. Their jobs typically are dealing with VIP protection, protecting courthouses, prisoner transfer, and for some reason, they're also tasked with doing check stops in the middle of rural Alberta, a place that they rarely even visit, much less understand the customs and the law. See, the tractor that Jeremiah was in wasn't subject to the same laws that vehicles that everyday folks drive on the highways is. You don't even need a driver's license or a license plate to operate those vehicles, a tractor. But the police didn't know that, and the consequences were dangerous and violent for Jeremiah, leaving a scar that he has to this day.
When I was approaching the check stop, which I didn't know what it was because I was too far away from the sign just to read check stop on it, I saw the lights though, and there's probably about 10 vehicles, 9 or 8, 10 vehicles lined up, so the sign was still too far away to see when I approached the lineup. And I go, my field's just down the road a little bit, I might just take the ditch the rest of the way, I won't get my field. So I got into the ditch, and as I was driving in the ditch, I saw this check stop sign, and I go, so I'll just keep driving until I get there and see what happens. And when I got to about, there's a crossroad, and I got to just about where the crossroad was, there's a sheriff waving me to stop, and he had a mask on and gloves, so I thought this had to do something with COVID maybe, actually, like checking for COVID breath. And I'm not going to stop in the ditch because there's quite a steep slope there, it's just too dangerous, so I drove up on top of the crossroad, and I thought I'd maybe stop there, and I wasn't even barely on the crossroad. A sheriff comes behind the vehicle and just slams the fender as hard as he can, And that's what made me mad. And like, it scared me at first. Like, what the heck is he doing? And I looked behind me and there's a sheriff there. And I stopped the vehicle and the tractor rolled to a stop. And I opened my door and asked him what he wanted. And then I couldn't quite make out the words he said, but I know from hearing the recording later, he said this is mandatory alcohol screening check stop. But I never heard those words. The tractor, he was still too far away and the tractor was running. And then when he finally came to over the doors, I could hear him better. And he asked me to shut the tractor off. And I said no, because you gotta put the park brake on, then give it a few minutes to cool, then I can shut it off safely and then walk out of the tractor. And so I declined that. And then he asked me to do a breathalyzer, which I still thought was for COVID-19, because they're wearing masks and gloves and all that stuff. And like, what would they be doing? Why would they be doing breathalyzers for alcohol when there's COVID going on?
Yeah.
And so I said no to that. And then he asked me maybe one or two more times, and I said no. And then he asked me to, or actually he never asked me. He asked me 1 or 2 times, and I said no. And then right away after that, he said you're under arrest, and he climbed into the tractor like really fast and started grabbing me. And I'm like, whoa, the park brake's not on, the tractor's not even off. You think I'm getting out of the tractor like that? It could roll, it could do anything. It's dangerous. And so I was holding onto the steering wheel on the seat, like I'm not getting out of the tractor in this situation. And then a sheriff came up from behind him and gave me a good whap in the face with his fist. And that's when I started bleeding, because he hit my nose real good and my whole face right here. And so there's blood going everywhere. And then I was choking on blood. And then the sheriff pushes me, my face to the ground. And then he's like, you're resisting arrest. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because he's on top of me. I can't move. And I couldn't even tell really what was going on. But I think the sheriff came around the door and opened the other one and he's pulling on me from there. That's what it felt like. So I was being pulled from like 2 directions, and then plus the sheriff on top of me. And I kept telling him, I can't move. I can't move. What are you doing to off of me? And finally, when he realizes like he's on top of me and I can't move, then he kind of gets off of me, and then they were able to pull me out of the tractor really fast. And when I fell out of the tractor, I barely landed on one leg. But like you saw in the video, the sheriffs took most of the fall. One went flying down, and when I was out on one leg, then the sheriffs grabbed my neck. One jumps up and grabs me and pulls me down, and that's when I hit the ground. And then they handcuffed me, and then when they handcuffed me, they checked my pockets and everything for weapons, which I don't have any weapons except a knife. They call that a weapon, I guess. And that's when they stood me up, and then they explained things a little bit better, like what this is. But they still didn't tell me what the breathalyzer was for. Like I asked like 20 or 30 times while I was handcuffed, and they're walking me to the cruiser to put me in. And he would not explain. He's like, it's for public safety. That doesn't tell me that it's for alcohol. I still never even knew what it was for. And I kept asking him, why do I have to do a breathalyzer? For what reason? Yes, it's for public safety, but what is it? And he wouldn't tell me that. And he didn't tell me I was going to be a criminal after I denied a breathalyzer. He didn't explain things like that. I'd be under arrest, or that was mandatory. I didn't know that either. Like I've never been in a check stop in my entire life. And then I happened to be in one with a tractor. It's crazy. Yeah. And then they stuffed me into the police cruiser. And actually, before they put me in the police cruiser, they wanted to check me with an ambulance because they saw blood. And they wanted to check the sheriff to make sure he didn't get any infections or anything from my blood or any diseases, whatever. And I haven't had food since morning. And I haven't drank anything all day either, because I don't even have time to take a drink of water. That's the number one reason why my nose started bleeding out really dry.
And up on your forehead here, the scar you were saying earlier, it's from concrete?
Yeah, that's from mostly like falling on the pavement, and my face was on the ground. They're on top of me, and they're pushing my head really hard on the ground. Like one of them's got their knee on my head, so I can't move. And after I was checked clear in the ambulance, they put me into the cruiser, and I probably sat there for 2 hours. The vehicle was turned off, so the windows weren't open. I'm sitting there with handcuffs on, and I'm fidgeting around trying to find a comfortable way, plus with the heat. And the sheriff comes in and out all for like 2 hours, and I keep asking him, how much longer? What am I supposed to be doing here? Why am I here? And that's when my parents arrived. And then that's when the situation happened with Dominic and my parents. And then finally I asked them, they finally released me and let me go to my parents. But during that whole time, I asked many times to phone home, and they wouldn't give me that chance. They wouldn't let me have any chance of like water. I told him I hadn't drank or eaten for hours since morning. And, most of the questions I asked him, he ignored me. He wouldn't. And he'd just say, we'll be here a little bit longer. And an hour later, a little bit longer. That's all he could say.
So now the charges, they've been dropped by the Crown. What do you think caused that, and are you pleased with how that turned out?
Well, I'm sure they saw the situation I was in and everything that happened to me, and they, all the support I'm getting, like from Rebel and everyone else. And that's mostly one of the reasons why they probably thought about dropping it, because they don't need all this trouble, especially when the court date comes. And I'm extremely pleased, because then I can get back to my normal life and stop wasting time with the situation. So that's definitely why I'm mostly pleased. But
it's still not over yet, I guess. You still have a problem with your learner's permit, your driver's license that hasn't been returned to you, even though you don't need a driver's license to operate a tractor on a highway. That's not actually a requirement, but they've confiscated your license, or what's going on there?
Usually when they do suspend a license, they send a paper in the mail, like telling you to return your license to the nearest agency. And so that paper, as long as I have that paper, I can send that to the lawyer, and the lawyer will send it to the Alberta government and ask them why they suspended my license for no reason. And they'll look into that, and hopefully I can get my license back from there. But yeah, suspending my license has also been a problem, because now I've been trying to get my drivers for the past 2 years. And I failed once, because usually they fail you once so they make more money. And then COVID came, and then you couldn't take the test for like another couple months. And then after that, I've suspended, and so I still can take the test. And so now I'm in this situation, hoping I can get my learners back, so I can at least take the test and get my drivers, because that is very important on the farm. My learners is very important enough, because I can still drive certain vehicles, like behind a tractor or something, to the field. Yeah, and that's been a problem. So the sooner I get my learners back, the better it is. All right. Well,
thanks so much for your time, and I hope that everything's held up all right, and that it's not traumatized you. I think police generally are good in this province, but I think this interaction you had is just so unfortunate.
Yes, I hope so, that I'm able to get back to my normal life as soon as possible. Yeah, and that this is over.
Has this changed how you view law enforcement in Alberta, Canada? Has it changed your perspective on them?
Yes, that's one thing I definitely wanted to mention, was the way I see sheriffs, like Alberta Police Force. I definitely see that in a different way now. Like, it scares me now whenever I see a sheriff. I don't have much respect for them now, because of what they've done to me.
Do you think that I mean, the video of what happened to you just on Rebel News was seen over 700,000 times. Thousands upon thousands of people in Alberta have seen what happened. Do you think that this has hurt sheriffs? Do you think they're going to change?
I hope so, that they realize that what this has caused and how many people see how their actions were. But I don't know 100% if they would change from that or not, which I don't think they will.
Okay. All right, thanks so much. Rebel News put up a link at helpjeremiah.com that redirected to their GoFundMe that put money towards their lawyers and the tractor, the downtime, and the rental tractor that they needed after the police destroyed the tractor that they were using. You can still go there and donate if you feel you need to. I want to thank the family for bringing me on their farm. They do have a beautiful operation. They have sheep, donkeys, horses, cattle. They even had a few roosters and a few dogs. I'm sure Catherine McKenna would have been a great fan of this place. I want to thank them again for allowing me to share their story about what is going on, because the mainstream media certainly wasn't interested in doing it. They did put out a few pieces on it, but immediately that coverage died down. See, the mainstream media wasn't interested in the story at all. Sure, they sent 1 or 2 reporters out in the first place, but really their heart wasn't in the story because they don't care about rural Alberta. It was Rebel News' story hitting over 700,000 views that I think contributed to the social pressure against the Crown prosecutors and the Ministry of Justice that caused this to be dropped. I really think that's true, and I want to thank you, the viewer, who may have gone to helpjeremiah.com to pitch in a few bucks to help out their family, or maybe you shared the story with your friends to point out this egregious case of police brutality in rural Alberta. It's not okay wherever it happens, and even though the social justice warriors at Black Lives Matter didn't care about this at all, I'm glad that you did and you shared the story. And it's important that we let folks know that the charges were now dropped because of the pressure that was put on the government and the Crown prosecutors. In rural Alberta, just outside of Sundre, I'm Kean Bexley.
Hey guys, so you guys just watched that entire news clip, and I don't know how you got, okay, I want to, first and foremost, before I say anything else, I want to say that is horrible what happened to this young man. This, not even young, it doesn't even matter what age you are, it's horrible if it happens to anyone, because the thing is that I genuinely believe, I don't think anybody should be treated like that. I think people are just using brutality just for the sake of brutality. Like, there is no rhyme or reason for it other than, I would say social or political or social control, but there's something even more, even beyond that control. There's something even more, beyond that. And I don't really know what it is, but but at this time with these officers, with this young man, they just wanted him to obey and to do what he said. And I think that it's very awful what happened to this young man. And I just pray for him and his family to heal from this experience and to go and grow beyond it if it has life altering things for him, and who knows what will happen to him in his future and the kind of fear that he has going forward, because I understand what happens to us as a people, groups that are not used to being harassed. This is like new to them, so they're just kind of like, they're just saying, they're just trying to deal with it the best way they can, versus where for the Black community, it's like it's passed down through generations that we talk about it, and that we deal with it as well. So for this young man, I pray that he gets the healing that he needs. That's basically what I'm saying here. Okay, so I'm gonna replay this clip again so I can give a commentary on this very particular point in the video that bothers me to my core, because it makes no sense, and it makes clear the agenda that this personal newscaster is trying to say.
Problem is, regular social justice warriors, folks who are opposed to police brutality, they weren't really interested in this case, because Jeremiah was a white farm boy from rural Alberta. He was a Catholic. He doesn't fit the bill that Black Lives Matter really is interested in today, but police brutality of any kind is a problem.
Okay, you guys just watched that last clip that I played, and basically he threw Black Lives Matter under the bus. This Canadian reporter threw Black Lives Matter under the bus, an American organization which I assume has roots all over the place now. I'm not, this reporter had no business throwing Black Lives Matter under the bus. Although I'm not a supporter of the movement itself, I understand that when people see Black Lives Matter, they are thinking of Black people calling out for change. And so when he's saying this, he's basically saying that the Black Lives Matter and Black people who are calling out for change don't support this rural Alberta team. Of course, people care about all police brutality, but right now people are concentrated on the areas that get it the worst and get it the most, and that is Black people. And that is where Black people resides mostly, and that's in America. And so he's basically saying Black people don't care. People care about, about police brutality. But again, it's very concentrated behavior. Now, injustices happen all over the world. It happens everywhere. But Black Lives Matter is focused on what happens to Black people because it's so concentrated and it's generational, versus what's happening out here in the Canadian farmland. And how, this boy, he actually got, I'm not going to say justice, but he got things happened to him. He had an experience, and it was an experience that a lot of Black people who go into these prisons and go into these jails have, of people not caring about what you're thinking, and people not caring about about what you're saying, about, what your needs are, because that's our prison systems. And this is the thing, I don't think anybody deserves brutality. And this is why I'm actually a Christian. This is one of those things that makes me a harder Christian than I care to admit, because I realize that nobody deserves that punishment. I don't even think people who harm people deserves that punishment. A lot of people like the eye for an eye thing. I don't, and I get it. I get that people have done some horrible stuff, but I don't think people want somebody, let's say somebody who tortured somebody. I don't believe that person who tortured somebody deserves that, for that to be done to them. We look at that and we say, "Ooh, we're fine now." No. Like, we're not fine just because somebody else was tortured. Like a person who was doing the torturing is now torturing. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe people should have to suffer the same fate they put other people under, because it was already a horrible fate, and so I think that people should live out their life in not solitary, but in prison, but not having the worst life, a very basic life. I think that's fine too, or something where they can still be productive to the society, otherwise where it's just costing us money. So I know that I kind of got off I kind of got off topic here, but this young man survive something that many Black people have to do all the time in America and across the world. What he got was it was actually very surprising to me, not just because he was white, but because he was Canadian. And it was very refreshing to hear that. Not even refreshing, let me say it like that. It was very surprising to hear, or something that I very noted, that I had to note down, that they're shuffling cops even in Canada. So cops from, the hardened areas of Canada are going in and being a part of, or they're trying to use those cops in white rural farmland Canada. And that's kind of what happens here too. They shuffle cops all the time, but I noticed that they don't put the worst kind of cops, or the most hardened cops in the white areas where they're stopping white people or upper class white people. They don't put those same cops there. So that there's that. So my biggest grievance with this video is not that this young boy was harassed or, had a taste of police brutality in a rural area. My biggest grievance, which, to be fair, it should be, but my biggest grievance is that this announcer chose to, in order to uplift this white boy, these rural people, this segment of the population that's very small, in order to do that, to uplift this young man. In this story, he puts down Black Lives Matter. That has nothing to do with this man. Yes, police brutality matters, but the reason why police brutality happening to Black people matters is because it's generational and it has never stopped. And basically now there's a whole movement to call it out. So what this guy is saying is basically Black Lives Matter doesn't care about rural white farm boys. And I want to be very clear. This boy had more at his disposal than most Black people who are abused, who had more resources at his disposal than Black people who are abused by the police in these small areas, in the Black areas, of America. He not only had parents, he was able to get all his charges dropped. He had a job. He had his future. Like, there's just things that he had that most Black people who experience police brutality don't. And if there's some statistics, and I apologize if I can find them, I will put them up here, but there's statistics that talk about the people that actually go into jail. And I'm not talking about police brutality, I'm just talking about people who go into jail, how they make under $12,000 a year. Like, that's crazy to me. That means that they're already making so little that's not even just poverty, that's derelict wages. I can't even think of the word. It's not derelict. I can't think of the word, but basically it's lower than poverty, because there's poverty where you're just struggling to make ends meet, but you're still getting paid. And then there's those people who just make just like 10, 12, $5 an hour, probably under the table. Those people are going to jail because they can't keep up with the emerging economies. They can't keep up with the changing skill sets that's needed for future employment. They can't keep up with, whatever it may be. So those are the type of people that actually go into prisons and jails because they don't have enough money to fight. They get these awful public defenders, and we know our system's messed up. Everybody knows that their system is messed up. Lawyers, everybody knows that the system is messed up. And I'm just talking from a baseline in America. Now, what happened to this boy? I'm sure that I'm not sure. Let me go back. I want to say I'm sure that these police got it talking to, at the very least, even if no charges were brought up against them personally. But the amount of force that they used, you can tell that they're practicing, practicing to do this in the future. Because these police officers were, they felt like their authority was challenged, and that this person was not submitting fast enough, and that, he was not listening. So they had to take it into their own hands and do what they're trained to do. And to be fair, I really think that was a setup for that young boy. He was being set up to have a, he was being set up to have a false drunk driving breathalyzer. Because why would they force that upon him? Once he said no the first time, they should have just let go and moved on. Because they were trying to catch him, trying to arrest him, and try to throw him in jail for no reason. Like, that's the point of that situation. It's not just social control, and there's something there in all these situations that nobody really understands. I don't think I even understand it, but that for the reason that they probably had a quota, or they just wanted to see who they can get, because bad policing is everywhere. Bad policing is everywhere. You can't catch them all, but I will say that I am happy that this man did this interview, because I would have never known about it, much less make a video about it, but I'm not happy with his delivery and his attack on Black Lives Matter in his statement. And even though he acknowledges that this is a rare occurrence that happens in rural farmland, and the reason why people don't care about it is because, one, he was able to be taken care of. He had a family to go home to, and they're still pushing him under the bus. By the way, the police, or the system itself, is still pushing him under the bus, and it's still hard for him to get his license, but he's okay generally. What he has now is trauma. And now he's getting those shakes that other Black people get when you get police behind you. When you get police behind you, and those lights go off, and you got that little shiver in your soul, and you're just like, and you have to start talking to yourself and talking about, play it cool, do you have everything, whatever. Now he gets that, because he probably didn't think anything of it when they stopped him, or when when he came up to the barrier or whatever. He didn't think anything of it. But then now he has that fear. Now it's been put into him, that fear. And now when he grows up and he has children, he's going to tell his children about that same fear. Even if that situation or another situation like that never happens to him again, he's gonna still have that fear. Now, later, Black people, we are consistently traumatized with this fear. Okay, hey you guys, I wanted to take a quick pause and just insert something here in this audio. But basically, this young man said it. He said that the people charging him did not want the rallying of the community. So basically, they would have protested. The community would have protested on his behalf, because we all see that it was wrong. On top of the fact that there was video evidence of it, that I don't know if they have to wear body cameras out there, but the footage, the footage of the passing driver is what really helped this teen as well. The the thing is that this boy had support, and that's the biggest reason why people don't care about white people, is because white people typically have support that black people do not, and that's why Black Lives Matter exists. And it's not that people don't care about this young boy because he's white, it's because they don't care about him because typically white people have support, and white people are given passes, and white people, you know, it's just, there's the difference. And this guy trying to make it racial, where he's like, oh well, white people, he's literally, this is what white people say about black people all the time, he's literally, the interviewer is literally playing the race card here. They don't care about him because he's a white rural teen, which in turn is kind of true. It's true, but it's not because just the simple fact he's white. It's the fact, it's the biggest, the fact is that he typically will have more help. But it's like, because he's white, he'll typically have more help. He has a more intact family structure. He had a job. He has community behind him, which many black people don't. So this is the issue here that that I wanted to point out, is that the world acknowledges police brutality happens. It's how the system goes about dealing with that police brutality that is another issue in and of itself. But this boy was able to handle it because he had community around him as well, and unfortunately he was left with the scars. So I wanted to take a quick moment, because I don't believe I really covered that particular aspect, that this boy had a community to deal with the trauma and the charges and the government itself. He had community to help him along. He also, did I hear it, a lawyer, not a public defender. He had a lawyer deal with some of the other legal ramifications that he's still dealing with till this day, because they were trying to railroad him. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that before we jump back into the regular part of the audio. Yeah. Hey guys, so I just wanted to comment on one more piece of the story, and basically that's that white people are actually fine with the police no matter what. And even in the story that talks about police brutality, the interviewer still gives like a good heart toward the police itself, and this is why black people don't. This is exactly why, because black people don't see the policing community as something that can be reformed, or something that can be, you know, friends of the black community. Even though, you know, when we call 911, we get police, you know, to come and help us with the issues. It's still like, when I'm out there in the world, something racist could happen, and it's probably most likely going to be done by police. And it's just the way that police view black people. And this is why Black Lives Matter is slated, like, this is another reason why Black Lives Matter is slated toward black lives, because we see how the entire community of people, of humans, treat black people, and this is a global issue. So I want you guys to listen to this quick clip from the newsreel, and I'm gonna continue my commentary.
Up all right,
so
and that it's not traumatized you. I think police generally are good in this province, but I think this
you know, all on
alert
alert about the policing that is taking place in the community, and how they're shuffling cops. But overall, it should put the entirety of Canada, entirety of the world on edge, because we should be understanding how policing is being done toward people, toward regular everyday civilians. And I think that we should, you know, take this snippet and turn it into a global change. How about that? This is what this newscaster could have called for, but instead he chose to attack Black Lives Matter, people who are considered to be social justice warriors, or just using, he was probably just using it as a derogatory term for people who seek social change and social justice. But regardless, this interviewer chose to be disrespectful toward another group of people trying to make change in a system, instead of recognizing that the entire system might need to change. He said police are generally good in this province. That's what he said. And what that should tell him is that they're changing the way policing is done in that province. They have different people that are changing the way. They have different police officers in that area to do that, to take those steps toward police, or toward civilians, excuse me. And what this tells me is that white people have a very good outlook on police officers, instead of realizing that we're all in this together and that this is a problem. And he said that not even that he said, excuse me, he is pretty much saying, like, these police were somewhere abusing someone else, and now they're in our town abusing us, and Black lives just doesn't matter. Instead of like vilifying these police departments, the people who are hiring these police, the people who, you know, checking into their background, doing that work that Black Lives Matter and other organizations are doing to try to stem the issue of police brutality. So y'all, I hate talking about police brutality. I hate talking about the problems and the issues because, you know, I hate talking about it because I don't want to talk about it, but I talk about it because it's something that bothers me. And this clearly bothered him, but the reporter, but instead of it bothering him to the point where he is seeking the change that's necessary, he's throwing other people under the bus. And he rather, for those cops, it sounds like those cops shouldn't be in this area. They should be in worse areas in other parts of the world, not here. Instead of realizing that the world has given violence to its people. The world is full of sin. It's full of disgusting behavior. And instead of realizing that this should happen nowhere, no kid, no Black kid, no nothing, because this is the tone deafness. He's, instead of like rallying and being for Black Lives Matter, or saying, you know what, this mimics the behavior of what's going on in Black Lives Matter and what they're fighting for. This mimics all of that trauma and everything. Instead of saying that, he rather throw Black Lives Matter under the bus. Hey, so this is my commentary, you guys, on this situation. It kind of makes me sad because the other white people are watching this and then they're taking this as like, oh, truth, like Black Lives Matter just does not care about white lives, instead of realizing the system is beneficial a lot of times to white people. And when it happens to white people, it's more of an anomaly. Not even just an anomaly, but it's something that's coming down the pipeline after generations of attacking Black people. So even if Black people just vanished off the face of the earth, let's say all melanated people and all Asian people like just vanished off the face of the earth, it's just going to come right back to you in the farmland, like in rural areas and cities. And it's just going to be, white people are still just going to keep attacking. When I say white people, I mean powers that be. And I mean, when I say the powers that be, I mean like police forces, anybody who has any sort of power. It's just going to attack the people that are left. And that's what I feel like this guy doesn't understand, is that the fact that they shuffled harmful police officers into a community like this, meaning that they're harming other communities across the board, that in other areas, with this kind of violent behavior. And so I feel it makes me sad about what happened to them, but it's like a global thing. And it's like, here, this is a movement that started in America. Black Lives Matter it's a movement that started in America in response to police brutality, and to be thrown under the bus, for this movement to be thrown under the bus instead of this guy adding to it is not adding to it, but just saying that police brutality everywhere is an injustice anywhere, which is what he could have led on. He instead chose to attack a group for not focusing on this singular incident that clearly doesn't happen all the time. But yeah, I'm gonna call it out and say police brutality is wrong anywhere, and this is definitely wrong here. And if you guys, however you guys feel about this, I would love to hear how you guys felt about this news story. If you felt like it spoke to you, if you felt like it, it's something that shouldn't happen, or do you feel like it's a fluke and like that boy should have just complied? Please let me know down in the comment section, and I'm very responsive. And I am trying to get better with my delivery, you guys. I have been editing this for about 5 hours and really trying to take things and put these things in and out, but because my memory lapse, I apologize for any stops and goes in this entire video, because I am attempting and trying to be better at my delivery. I've heard you guys, especially that person that commented on one of those videos that I did, that said you have horrible delivery. I'm trying my best to have a better delivery. I was originally recording these things on my phone, but now I can actually record them through a microphone. I recently purchased a microphone to have better delivery, so I won't be holding my phone and trying to figure out, you know, how to place it in there, you guys. So yeah, tell me how you guys think I did, and not just how I did, but on the video itself. And I appreciate you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys. Thanks.